Alright guys, let's talk about the Air Max 93, the Air Burst, and the Air Max Phoenix. And we're going to start here with this pair of 93s. They were released early on in 2006 as part of the history of Airpack, and they're dope. So let's check them out. You'll notice right away that the upper is white and laser blue, and this was one of the original colorways of the Air Max 93. So back in the day, in 1993, people used to refer to this shoe as the Air Max 270. And the reason why is because you could see visible air for 270 degrees all the way around the heel of the shoe. And this was an upgrade from the Air 180, which came out just a couple years beforehand, where you could see visible air 180 degrees around the outsole. And now Nike took it a step further and gave us visible air around the heel. Now, when you think of the Air Max 270 or the Air Max 93, think of it in relation to the Air 180 and also the Air Max 360, because in 2006, Nike managed to put visible air in 360 degrees around the midsole of the shoe, and that's this right here. So think 180, 270, 360. And don't be confused, the Air Max 90 has nothing to do with 90 degrees of air. That came out in 1990. So another big innovation on this shoe is that the visible air bubbles are colorful. Before the Air Max 93, the visible air inside of a Nike shoe was always white. But in 1993 and going forward, Nike started putting colors in the air bubble. So the color of this air bubble is blue to match the swoosh on the shoes. Another big innovation with this shoe is going to be this neoprene tongue and the inner booty. It really feels like you're wearing a pair of socks even though you're wearing a pair of shoes. And this was also an upgrade from the Air 180 that features the same type of neoprene tongue, but there is no neoprene booty on the 180. So this shoe's very sick, very underappreciated, and very under-retroed. About 10 years after the initial release in 2003, Nike retroed a lot of these Air Max 93s, but after that, really not so many. We do have a very exclusive pair to look forward to coming out very soon, and it's a collaboration with a shoe boutique called Size. They're going to be all blue suede, and they'll be very, very popular. Who knows, maybe Nike will start collaborating with lots of boutiques and make some very rare 93s. It'll probably build up the hype for the Air Max 93, and then they'll be able to retro them over and over and over again. I want to walk you through a few different varieties of Air Max 93s, then we'll move on to the Air Burst, and lastly we'll talk about the Air Max Phoenix. And let's start here with this pair of 93s. These are white, blue, and lime. Another one of the original colorways of the 93. You'll notice that the visible air bubble is green and it matches the swoosh and some of the accents on this shoe. And these shoes are amazing. They're very reminiscent of the original Huarache in Scream Green. Although the shade of green and the shade of blue are slightly different, they still look very similar. And like the Huarache, the Air Max 93 is very popular abroad. So is the Air Classic BW, so is the Air Max Lite, so is the Air Max 90, so is the Air Max 1. A lot of the early Air Maxes from the first 5 or 6 years of the line are very, very popular abroad. And so are these. So this pair had a mesh toe box. The one right next to them has a leather toe box. And the ones that are mesh or suede are going to be more desirable than the ones that are made out of leather. Let's keep working our way through these. This pair right here is very near and dear to me. You can see that it's baby blue and yellow. I sold a lot of these on eBay. I mean like hundreds of them. And I used to list them as the Air Max 93, 270 of course, but then I'd also call them UCLA Bruins and Denver Nuggets because the colorway matches those teams' jerseys. And when you're selling on eBay, you really want to have a lot of great keywords in the title because you never know. Maybe somebody's looking for UCLA Bruins tickets or Denver Nuggets jerseys and they stumble upon this shoe and boom, they want it. So, gotta love these. We'll skip past this and look at this pair right here. It's known as the Escape Edition. Bisque Storm Rope is the colorway. I have a pair of matching Air Huaraches. They're very, very sick. Actually, a lot of these 93 retros are going to be in colorways similar to ACG shoes for whatever reason. And then you'll notice over here a pair of gray ones and a pair of red, white, and blacks. I called the red, white, and blacks the Chicago Bulls. I always set the shoes up in display in a rainbow because I wanted to hypnotize people when they came into the ShoeZeum. So first the shoes were arranged by style, like running, basketball, cross training, tennis, then by the actual shoe, like the Air Max 93, and then by color to hypnotize you. Let's move on 1 year later to 1994 and check out this pair of Air Bursts. When this shoe first released in 94, it was actually just called the Air Max 1994. It's going to have the same big visible air window as the Air Max 93. But one thing that Nike did with the Air Burst is ditch this neoprene Huarache-like tongue, and we have a big padded tongue. And if you look at the tongue, it says Air Max real big, which is kind of funny because this shoe is not called the Air Max Burst. It's just called the Air Burst. And Air Maxes are historically known for having a visible air window. So really this shoe should be called an Air Max Burst, but it's just an Air Burst. And this is the original colorway. I kind of think it looks like the OG Air Max 1, but just with a bigger visible air window. They're very sick and very underrated. And I think if Nike were to retro these shoes in mesh, just like this, in a bunch of different colors, they'd be very, very popular. So the two pairs right in front of you right here were a collaboration between Nike and M&M. I'm not sure if you knew this, but M&M's all-time favorite Air Max is the Air Burst. So Nike celebrated that with this pair of Air Slim Shadys. Check out the tongue, it says Air Slim Shady, where it would have normally said Air Max. And underneath on the sole, it's gonna say Shady Records. These shoes are dope, nice, beautiful gray suede. They're limited to only 1,000 pairs in the world, and they were released at boutiques like Barney's, and they were sold for a lot of money. And they're very underrated. The problem with the Air Max 93s and the Air Bursts are that the midsoles tend to get very yellow and dirty. And you can look closely at this pair right here. The midsole looks like it's almost brown, and this shoe's barely ever been out of the box. So with these shoes, they're just very temperamental. I say buy them and wear them because they're going to get yellow and they're going to fall apart. And let's skip past the second Air Burst and look at the Air Max Phoenix. And you'll notice the resemblance between the Air Max Phoenix, which came out in 2006, and the vintage Air Burst right here. The uppers look very, very similar. But this shoe is infused with 2006 technology. In 06, Nike came out with Plus technology, which meant that your shoes were compatible with your iPod and other Apple gear. And this shoe is an example of a very early 2006 running shoe infused with that iPod technology. So you can actually put a little chip inside this shoe and it would communicate with your iPod. These shoes have never been retroed. They only came out in 06, and that was pretty much it. And I really like this pair because you're able to wear a pair that looks just like the Burst, but they're newer, so they're just not going to fall apart the same way an old vintage pair of shoes would. I think the 93s, the Burst, the Air Max Phoenix are very underrated, and I'm sure that if Nike collaborated with boutiques and maybe other artists or athletes to make limited edition pairs, it would really increase the hype, and then Nike will retro this shoe over and over and over again.